We're almost halfway there. And we heard the story of the women at the well. Jesus makes a pit stop in Samaria, sends the apostles out to get lunch, and while he's there, a woman comes to draw water. Now, Samaritans and Jews were enemies. Jesus should not even have spoken to her or made eye contact with her. But this woman who is in such a difficult situation, Jesus reaches out to because he senses something deeper. She's not only physically thirsty and coming to the well, she's spiritually thirsty as well. And in the conversation we heard in the gospel, Jesus awakens in her that realization of what she's really thirsting for. The gospel tells us this woman had been married 5 times. She was living with a guy who wasn't her husband. She was not exactly the highlight of the religious world. She was a woman that would have been on the outskirts, someone who would have not even been around Jesus. Yet Jesus reaches out because he realizes she is thirsting for something deeper. And he wants to awaken in her that he is that living water. He is what can finally quench the thirst that she has in her life to be loved. And my friends, our situation might be different than the woman at the well, but like her, we thirst as well. And like her, we try to quench that thirst with a lot of stuff. Maybe it's material possessions. Maybe it's power. Maybe it's trying to be the best and the brightest. Maybe it's trying to feel like we're more important than others, or that we're more successful than others. There's a lot of things we try to quench that thirst with that leave us still thirsty. And like the woman at the well, Lent calls us to realize that it is Jesus, the living water, that can quench the deepest thirst of our hearts and of our lives. Because after all, what we're all thirsting for is the unconditional love of God. A God that loves us despite our faults and failings. A God that loves us despite our mistakes and sins. And that's who Jesus is for us. That's the good news of the gospel, the living water that quenches the thirst of the human heart. As we continue to grow ourselves, hopefully, closer to Christ during this season of Lent, let us recognize our thirst for what it really is. And let's stop trying to fill it with things that still leave us thirsty. Instead, let us go to Jesus, the living water, for it is he and he alone that can quench the thirst of our heart. The woman at the well found that out in the gospel this past weekend. May we find that out during our journey of Lent as well. Not a sermon or homily, but just something for all of us to think about.